The first knock was quiet, a muted thump against the door that dragged me up from the shallow edge of sleep like a sudden yank on a line. I didn't move at first. I lay there in the dark of my duplex, confused, limbs heavy from the kind of exhaustion that only comes after a 12-hour A shift. It came again. 3 knocks this time, intentional, measured, then nothing. I stared at the ceiling, breath fogging faintly in the air. The heat had shut off sometime during the night, and the room carried the sterile chill of a morgue. Outside, the wind howled, battering the windows hard enough to make the glass shudder. The forecast had warned of a fast-moving winter storm, temperatures plunging into the low 20s, wind chill scraping close to 0. The knocking started again, louder now, sharper, desperate. I kicked the blankets away, goosebumps rising instantly as cold air hit my skin. The floor burned with icy shock beneath my bare feet as I staggered toward the door, snatching my phone from the nightstand. 4:32 a.m. glared back at me in unforgiving white numbers. My pulse spiked. Nobody showed up at a door this early with good intentions. I flipped on the porch light and pulled the door open, and then my body locked. Dean stood there, his small 11-year-old body pitched forward, carrying his sister on his back. Hannah's thin arms hung slack around his neck, her head resting against his shoulder at an unnatural angle. Dean's face was chalk white, lips tinged violet, eyes unfocused with the distant stare I'd seen too many times in hypothermia patients. He wore pajama pants soaked dark at the knees, sneakers slick with ice melt, no socks. Draped over his shoulders was a filthy garage rug, the kind used, undercars stiff with grease stains and already crusting in the cold. Hannah didn't move. Training took over before fear could. Cyanosis first her lips and nails a dull blue-gray. Her chest fluttered with shallow, rapid breaths, each inhale punctuated by a harsh stridor, the sound of air forcing its way through a narrowing passage. She wore a pink princess nightgown, paper-thin, but Dean's winter coat had been wrapped tightly around her tiny frame. He gave her his coat. Inside now. My voice came out even, controlled. I lifted Hannah from his back. She weighed almost nothing, her skin cold and waxy beneath my hands. The moment the load was gone, Dean's legs gave out. He crumpled onto my floor, collapsing bonelessly, nerves too numb to respond. I laid Hannah on the couch, my thoughts snapping into order like a checklist. Severe hypothermia. Core temp likely under 95. Respiratory distress possible croup, pneumonia, airway compromised. I gathered every blanket I could reach, wrapping her carefully, deliberately avoiding hands and feet. Warm the core first. Warm the arteries. Rapid rewarming of frozen extremities could send cold blood rushing back to the heart and stop it cold. Her breathing worsened. I sprinted to the bathroom and yanked open the cabinet where I kept my emergency supplies, an old habit from years of night shifts. The nebulizer sat unopened in its box. I bought it 6 months earlier when a patient's family couldn't afford one. I never imagined I'd use it on my niece. My hands trembled as I snapped the pieces together, poured saline into the chamber, and fitted the mask over Hannah's face. The machine buzzed softly, mist filling her airway. The stridor eased, dropping slightly in pitch. Dean lay curled near the door, shaking violently, teeth clacking uncontrollably. I grabbed my phone again. This time, my hands shook not from cold, but from a rage so sharp it felt frozen in my veins. I dialed 911 and put it on speaker, already moving back to Hannah. 911, what's your emergency? This is Nurse Willowhart, license RN 4022. My voice was smooth, clinical. I'm reporting 2 pediatric emergencies at a private residence. Suspected severe child neglect. I need an ambulance and police immediately. 2 children, ages 11 and 7, hypothermia. 1 an acute respiratory distress. Address is 447 Maple Grove, Unit B. Ambulance is en route. Stay on the line. I set the phone down and went to Dean, pulling him farther from the door, wrapping him tightly in my comforter. Then I headed to the kitchen, grabbed the carton of chocolate milk, poured it into a mug, and microwaved it for 40 seconds. Not hot, just warm enough to heat his core without burning frozen tissue. The microwave beeped. I tested it against my wrist safe and returned with a straw. Dean sipped slowly, his hands too stiff to hold the mug. Each swallow made him flinch as warmth met cold-damaged tissue. I knelt beside him, one hand steadying the cup, the other checking Hannah's pulse thin, fast, but present. My mind cataloged injuries with detached precision. Frostbite on Dean's toes, visible through holes in his soap sneakers. Malnutrition, both underweight, cheekbones sharp, eyes sunken. Hannah's nails were dirty and chewed. Dean's hair greasy and matted. These were my brother's children. Joshua and Jane lived in a mansion in Riverside Heights. Heated floors, 5 bedrooms, a wine cellar worth more than my house. And they sent their kids into a winter storm wearing pajamas. My grip crushed the milk carton slightly. Dean flinched. I forced myself to relax my hand. Later, there would be time for rage later. Right now, I was a nurse. Sirens sliced through the wind, growing louder, red and blue flashing across my walls. I looked down at Dean, his eyes far too old for his face. There was no shock in them. No confusion, just exhausted acceptance. Something cracked in my chest. The ambulance doors slammed shut behind us, the sound echoing through me. Hannah lay strapped to the gurney, oxygen mask fogging with each strained breath. The EMT adjusted the flow rate, movements efficient and practiced. I sat beside Dean, my hand wrapped around his. His fingers were still cold despite the thermal blankets. He stared at the ceiling lights, tracking them with that same unsettling calm. "Can you tell me what happened tonight?" I asked gently. Dean swallowed. For a moment, he said nothing. Then words spilled out in a flat whisper. Mom and Dad left at 5. There was a party, a casino opening. Dad said they needed to beep the cold front. The MT paused briefly at Hannah's 4 before continuing. They told us to order pizza and be in bed by 9. My jaw tightened, but I stayed neutral. At 10, snow started blowing inside when I checked the yard. I put on my pajamas and my winter coat. Hannah stayed in the living room. His voice wavered. She got impatient. She only had her nightgown and that jacket. She didn't know how cold it was. I watched his profile 11 years old and already carrying responsibility like armor. The wind slammed the door. The smart lock turned on. The bitterness in his voice didn't belong to a child. I tried the code. I called Dad, then Mom. I clenched my fist against my thigh. "Why didn't you call me?" Guilt crossed his face. I almost did. The phone died. I forgot to charge it. The monitor beeped steadily above Hannah. "It's not your fault," I said firmly. His fingers squeezed mine. We went to the garage. I wrapped myself in a rug. I gave Hannah my coat. His words rushed now. "The garage isn't heated." It got down to 23. Then she started wheezing. Bad. I knew she'd die if we stayed. His voice broke. So I picked her up. I walked. Through the woods. The shortcut. 1 mile. "You saved her life," I said hoarsely. The MT turned away quickly. The ambulance rolled into Mercy General at 5:30 a.m. Hannah was rushed to IQ. Dean was wheeled away, feet too damaged to walk. Officer Jasper took my statement in the hallway, his pen pressing harder with each word. And the parents. I don't know. They left at 5. We'll find them. At 8, as Dean slept, I heard heels clicking sharply down the hall. I turned to see a woman in her 50s approaching, charcoal blazer pressed. Her appearance was razor sharp despite the early hour. Rimless glasses rested on a narrow bridge of her nose, and her gaze swept over me with the same cold evaluation I used when sorting patients by urgency. Miss Hart. She didn't extend a hand. Carla Evans, Child Protective Services. My stomach sank. Carla passed me without waiting. Entering the room where Dean sat rigid in his wheelchair, injured feet elevated and wrapped in pristine white dressings. She studied him with the detached efficiency of someone counting inventory, eyes registering every bruise, every mark of neglect. Her pen moved steadily across a leather notebook. After what felt interminable, though it couldn't have been more than a few minutes, she turned back toward me. Miss Hart, I am Carla Evans with CPS. Her voice held no compassion, no softness, only the dense weight of policy and authority. The children are currently under emergency protective custody. I will be conducting a home assessment at your residence tomorrow. Kinship placement is preferred, but compliance with safety regulations is mandatory. She paused, her eyes locking onto mine. If your home does not meet hygiene and safety requirements immediately, the children will be placed into foster care upon discharge. The words landed like a blow. My duplex was small, cluttered with the evidence of 60-hour work weeks and exhaustion. I had no child-sized furniture, no cabinet locks, no extra money to magically turn my home into a safe haven for two traumatized kids who had barely survived the night, but I couldn't show that fear. I straightened my spine, summoning the calm that had carried me through codes, trauma bays, and patients bleeding out under fluorescent lights. I'll take care of it. Carla's expression didn't shift. She nodded once, wrote something down, and walked away, heels clicking with the same measured precision. I remained in the corridor as dawn crept unseen beyond the walls. Around me, the hospital settled into its morning rhythm, footsteps echoing, monitors beeping, nurses exchanging reports in low voices. I had lived inside that rhythm for years. Now I felt separate from it, inside these walls. My niece fought for breath while my nephew sat immobilized, legs still numb and unresponsive. Somewhere else, my brother and his wife were sleeping off champagne and casino losses, oblivious to the fact that their children had nearly frozen to death. And tomorrow, a woman with rimless glasses and a leather notebook would decide whether I was fit to keep them safe. I had less than 24 hours to become someone I wasn't certain I knew how to be. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Indifferent to the pressure settling onto my shoulders, I pulled out my phone, already inventorying what I owned, what I could sell, how quickly it could be done, and whether it would be enough. It had to be enough. I turned toward Dean's room, squaring myself against the impossible task ahead. The hallway stretched long and sterile, but I moved forward anyway. My phone buzzed, a message I'd been waiting for. The pawn shop on 5th Street. They would take my grandmother's diamond necklace. I could bring it in later that afternoon to complete the evaluation and finalize the price. I stared at the screen, the blue glow lighting my face in the pre-dawn corridor, and felt nothing. No sadness, no regret. Just numbers. I slipped the phone into my scrub pocket and turned back toward Dean's room. Through the narrow window, I saw him sitting silently, feet bandaged, eyes fixed on the wall with a look far too old for his age. A child who had carried his sister through a frozen forest shouldn't look that empty waiting. Resigned to whatever came next, I wasn't going to let him wait anymore. Earlier that morning, between 6 and 10, the wind cut sharply as Officer Jasper pulled his collar up and approached the Hart mansion. The modern exterior glowed with recessed lighting that likely cost more than his yearly salary. Motion sensors activated, lighting the curved driveway where a Tesla sat coated in frost. Jasper pressed the video doorbell. A soft chime echoed inside the cavernous home. He waited 10 seconds, pressed it again. The small camera lens blinked red. "Mr. Hurt," he said. "This is Officer Jasper with the police department. We have confirmed there is no guardian present at this address during hazardous weather conditions. Your children are currently receiving emergency care at Mercy General Hospital." He paused deliberately. "You are required to present yourselves immediately to speak with Child Protective Services. Any delay will be documented as child abandonment." Silence. Only the wind whistled through the decorative columns flanking the door. 40 miles away. Joshua Hart dozed in a leather chair at a high-stakes blackjack table, his chip stack reduced to a fraction of its former height. Jane hovered near the slots, her fifth martini making her laugh too loudly at nothing. The notification hit Joshua's gut before he even opened it. Front door motion detected. He fumbled his phone, nearly dropping it. The app lagged always slow when it mattered most. Then the feed loaded. 2 uniformed officers stood on his porch, one speaking directly into the camera. He didn't need sound. The rigid posture, the squad car in the driveway, he knew exactly what this was. "Jane," he croaked. "Jane, we need to leave, now." She looked up, mascara smudged beneath tired eyes. "What?" "We just got here. The police are at the house." Her face strained of color beneath 12-hour-old makeup. The A lobby smelled of burnt coffee and panic. "I just finished checking my bank account, calculating liquidation timelines, when the automatic doors burst open at exactly 9. Joshua entered first. His suit was rumpled like he'd slept in it. He had. One side of his hair stuck up where he tried to smooth it down with damp fingers in the car. The Rolex on his wrist gleamed obscenely under the fluorescent lights. Jane staggered in behind him, still wearing last night's gown. The silk hem dragged across the floor, stained and frayed. She smelled of gin and cigarettes. "Where are they?" Her voice cracked through the waiting room. Heads turned. "Where are my babies?" A security guard stepped forward, palm raised. "Ma'am, you'll need to. I'm their mother." She surged toward the nurse's station, heels striking the floor in uneven, frantic clicks. "Someone tell me where my children are. Right now." Joshua noticed me near the hallway entrance. For a split second, our eyes locked. I watched him think, saw the calculation happen in real time as panic, sharpened into strategy. He smoothed his jacket and approached with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to control. "Willow." His voice dropped into that calm, reasonable register, the one he used when he wanted something. "Thank God you were there. This whole thing is just a horrible misunderstanding." I didn't respond. Didn't move. He stepped closer, lowering his voice further. "I know how hard nursing school was for you. Those loans, what are you carrying now? 60,000? 70? His breath carried the sour mix of alcohol and desperation. "I'll pay them off. Every dollar, today. Just tell the police this was an accident." My hands trembled. I pressed them against my sides, grounding myself in the rough cotton of my scrubs. "You locked your children outside in 23-degree weather?" "We didn't lock them out. The smart lock malfunctioned," he said smoothly. "You know how technology is." His smile was polished, rehearsed. "Think about it, Willow. No debt. You could finally breathe." "No." The word landed flat. Final thought, his smile vanished. "You're making a mistake. The mistake was letting you near those kids for 11 years. His hand shot out, fingers clamping around my arm hard enough to bruise. "Listen very carefully to me. I will hire the best attorney in this state. I will strip that nursing license right off your wall. You'll never work in healthcare again. Joshua." Jane appeared at his side, her voice coated in the practiced sweetness she used when manipulating people. "Maybe Willow just needs time to think about what's best for the children." A stable home, their own rooms, everything they're used to. Her eyes flicked over me, sharp beneath smeared mascara. You live in a duplex, right? How many bedrooms? Something cold crystallized in my chest. I met her gaze and watched her confidence falter. One, I said, but it's warmer than your garage. Joshua's face flushed deep purple. You self-righteous? He shoved me. Hard. I stumbled backward, my hips slamming into the corner of a metal medical cart. Instruments clattered across the linoleum. Pain burst through my elbow as I caught myself against the wall. Palms scraping raw against concrete dot, my thick winter coat absorbed some of the impact. But my arm throbbed where it struck the cart's edge. Don't touch her. The voice was small but fierce. Dean stood. Actually stood. His hands gripped the arms of his wheelchair, bandaged feet bare on the footrests. His face was drained of color from the pain, but his eyes burned. Don't you ever touch her? His voice cracked, rising into a scream. You left us? You left us to die, and you don't even care. Jane stared at her son like she was seeing a stranger. Her mouth opened, then closed. No sound came out. Security. The nurse was already on the phone. We need security to the A lobby immediately. 2 guards arrived within seconds. The police were notified. 5 minutes later, Officer Jasper entered the scene. Joshua tried to retreat, hands lifting as he slipped into his reasonable man routine. This is a family issue. My sister is clearly emotional and turn around. Jasper's voice was ice. Hands behind your back. You can't be serious. I said turn around. Jasper produced his handcuffs. You are under arrest for assault and disorderly conduct. The metal closed around Joshua's wrists with a sharp click that echoed through the suddenly silent lobby. His face drained from purple to gray. Jane began crying real tears this time, or a convincing imitation. This is insane. We came here worried about our children, and she's trying to frame us. Jasper turned to her, unmoved. Jane Hart, you are also under arrest for child endangerment and disorderly conduct. He nodded to another officer. Read them their rights. I stayed pressed against the wall, cradling my scraped palm. My elbow throbbed out. The officers escorted Joshua and Jane toward the exit. Joshua tried to look back, tried to speak, but Jasper's hand on his shoulder kept him moving. Dean collapsed back into his wheelchair, his small body shaking. A nurse rushed over, scolding him gently for standing, checking his feet. He didn't seem to hear her. He was looking at me. Are you okay? He whispered Dot. I pushed away from the wall and walked to him on unsteady legs, kneeling until we were eye to eye. My palms stung, my elbow already swelling, but none of it mattered. I'm okay, I said. Are you? He nodded. Then, so softly I almost missed it, thank you. I took his hand, the one not tethered to Unfor, and held it gently. His fingers were still cold. Behind us, the security cameras had recorded everything. The hospital had already requested the footage. My arm ached. My palm bled. I have less than 20 hours to turn my duplex into a home for 2 children. I barely knew. But as the automatic doors closed behind Joshua and Jane expensive clothes, empty promises disappearing into the cold morning light, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt strong. Morning came wrapped in dull winter light. Outside Joshua's mansion at 8:55 a.m., the house looked carefully curated, what Jane liked to call a symbol of their lifestyle. Carla's sedan arrived exactly at 9. Officer Jasper followed in his patrol car. Neither vehicle belonged among the pristine driveways and ornamental trees. Ready? Carla asked, stepping out with a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. Officer Jasper entered the emergency code Joshua had provided unaware. It wasn't the one Dean had memorized. The door opened with a cheerful electronic chime. The same sound that had sealed two children outside in freezing weather. The foyer opened into a vaulted living room. Italian leather furniture formed rigid right angles around a glass coffee table. A wine cabinet lined the far wall, backlit and temperature controlled. Inside sat 12 bottles of red wine, labels facing outward like trophies. Carla moved into the kitchen. Her heels echoed against marble tile. The Sub-Zero refrigerator hummed expensively. She opened it. 2 slices of pizza sat in a grease-soaked box, cheese freckled with blue mold. 3 energy drinks. A half-empty bottle of vodka. Nothing else. No milk, no produce. No bread, no trace of children. Officer Jasper checked the pantry. Stale tortilla chips. A single jar of olives. Carla uncapped her pen and marked her form. The scratch of ink sounded final. Second floor, she said. Dean's room waited at the end of the hall. The door stood ajar, revealing fashionable gray walls. A mattress lay directly on the hardwood floor, no frame. Just a fitted sheet and thin blanket. In the corner stood a professional ring light on a tripod, its cord trailing to the outlet. Carla photographed everything. The missing bed, the lighting equipment, the closet holding 3 pairs of jeans and 4 shirts, all too small. They threw out his bed, she said, to make room for Jane's streaming setup. Jasper's jaw tightened. He said nothing. Hannah's room was worse. A toddler bed she'd outgrown years ago. Stuffed animals that looked bulk-bought and untouched. A broken window latch let cold air push the curtains inward. Carla marked her form again. And again. Back downstairs, Jasper stepped into the garage. When he returned, an elderly man followed him inside a neighbor in a cardigan. "Thank you for coming, sir," Jasper said. "You mentioned concerns?" Mr. Clint removed his glasses, hands trembling slightly as he cleaned them on his sweater. "The parents, they're party people. Every weekend, noise until 3 or 4 in the morning. White Claw cans all over the driveway." Carla's pen hovered. "And the children?" Mr. Clint's face tightened with shame. "The boy, Dean. I used to see him dragging heavy trash bags in a little red wagon. What was he doing?" Carla asked, already knowing. "Collecting empties. Taking them to the bottle return at Kroger." His voice cracked. "The more they drank, the more money he had. I'd see him and his sister sitting at the store entrance afterward, eating Lunchables like they hadn't eaten all day." The room went silent. Even the refrigerator seemed to pause. "I asked him once if everything was okay at home," Mr. Clint continued. "He said they were too busy playing to eat dinner." He looked at Carla. "That wasn't true, was it?" "No," Carla said quietly. She made 3 more marks. When she looked up, her expression remained neutral, but her knuckles were white around the pen. "Environment unsafe," she read aloud. "Inadequate nutrition. Evidence of chronic neglect." She checked a final box. "I'm recommending immediate termination of parental custody pending criminal proceedings." Back at my apartment, I sat with my phone in my hand and a decision weighing heavily on my chest. I needed to shark someone who could dismantle Joshua's legal team and ensure those kids never set foot in that house again. The name everyone whispered. With fear and respect was attorney Vance, the most effective family law attorney in the region. He didn't lose. He also didn't come cheap, but I'd already begun preparing. While I was still in the hospital with Dean and Hannah, while my arms still throbbed from being shoved into a cart, I'd cataloged everything I owned that could become cash. Yesterday afternoon, I walked into the pawn shop on 5th Street with my grandmother's diamond necklace. She'd given it to me on my 16th birthday, an heirloom passed down through generations. The stone wasn't large, but it was flawless, set in platinum. I'd worn it twice, once to her funeral, once to my nursing school graduation. The pawnbroker examined it under his loupe for a long time. Then he looked up, 3,800 cash, right now. I signed without hesitation. The laptop came next. I listed it in the neighborhood group, a high-end model I'd just finished paying off last week. $900 in monthly payments. Finally mine, a college sophomore, arrived within the hour. Cash in hand. $900. Gone in 30 seconds. But the espresso machine god, that one hurt. I stood in front of it for nearly 10 minutes before I could bring myself to unplug it. It was beautiful. Brushed stainless steel, Italian-made, precision engineered. The steam wand produced microfoam so perfect it could make hospital cafeteria beans taste like a cafe in Milan. I'd bought it 2 years earlier, right after I finished paying off Mom's medical bills. Joshua had inherited all of Dad's life insurance. $75,000. I'd asked him once, just once, to help split Mom's hospital costs. He'd laughed. That money's for investing in the future, he'd said, swirling bourbon in a crystal glass. And now I was selling the only thing I'd ever bought purely for joy. Not for survival, not for responsibility, just happiness. To clean up the wreckage his future had left behind. A young man arrived to pick it up. Fresh out of college, first real job, eager smile. He handed me $600 in cash and thanked me repeatedly, telling me it was an incredible deal. I smiled, told him to enjoy it, closed the door. Then I stared at the empty counter. The outline remained a clean rectangle in the dust. My brother hadn't just used me. He'd been merciless to his own children. I hardened my resolve. Those kids would never spend another night under his roof. Total funds, $5,300 from sales. $7,500 from savings. $12,800. I walked into Attorney Vance's office at exactly 10 a.m. He was early 50s, silver hair, eyes sharp as scalpels. The kind of man who made you straighten instinctively. He skipped pleasantries. Show me what you have. I slid the records across his desk. Dean's frostbite treatments. Hannah's hypothermia and asthma crisis. My own injury report. Photos of my bruised arm, the children's hollowed faces. Screenshots from Jane's Instagram. Champagne flutes and strobe lights on the same nights Mr. Clint had described. Vance reviewed everything in silence, removing his glasses halfway through. When he looked up, his expression was unreadable. I can guarantee permanent custody, he said flatly. And I can guarantee your brother serves prison time. The retainer? $9,000. I opened my bag and placed the cash on his desk in neat stacks. Then let's begin. He slid the contract forward. I signed. Every possession I'd valued had bought 2 children a future they'd never had. That afternoon, Carla Evans arrived for the home study. She moved through my duplex like a drill instructor checking expiration dates, opening cabinets, shaking the freshly assembled bunk beds. I'd stayed up past midnight building them, palms blistered from the Allen wrench. She paused at the kitchen counter. Her eyes lingered on the empty space where the espresso machine had been. Then she noticed the receipts laid out on the table, bedding, clothes in the correct sizes, asthma meds, a humidifier, star-shaped nightlights. She examined them carefully, then set them down. Carla uncapped her pen, stamped past. You can pick up the children tomorrow morning. The nod was brief, professional. It was the most meaningful approval I'd ever received. Day 3, morning. Hannah recovered faster than expected. Oxygen stable. Breathing clear. Follow-up scheduled. Medication protocols outlined. Because I was a pediatric RN trained to manage her care, the hospital released her without hesitation. Dean walked through my door first, holding Hannah's hand. He took in the apartment, the mismatched furniture, the basic drip coffee maker, the empty space on the counter where something once lived. Then he saw the bunk beds, the bright quilts, the toy chests filled with books and puzzles. His eyes wavered. He didn't cry. He'd learned not to. But the crack was there. Hannah smiled when she spotted the teddy bears on the bottom bunk. The kind every kid wanted. I'd seen her stare at them through a store window months ago. She had masked. Now she handed the blue one to Dean. "This one's yours," she said solemnly. "We match." He clutched it like oxygen. I knelt in front of them. "This is home now. As long as you need it. Forever if you want." Dean glanced at the empty counter again, then back at me. He didn't need words. 2 weeks later, Jane made bail. Attorney Vance warned me, no contact, no public statements. Standard conditions. Jane ignored them immediately. That night, my phone erupted. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Jane was live on every platform. She sat in her mother's living room, eyes rimmed red with carefully applied makeup. Comments flooded in by the thousands. "I need to speak my truth," she said, voice shaking. "My children were taken by a jealous, vindictive woman." My stomach dropped. My sister-in-law, Willow, she spat my name, as a bitter, lonely spinster who resented my happiness. She accused me of manipulation, of lies, of staging neglect. The door code? A simple mistake. Kids forget things. The comments exploded. "She'd never neglect her kids. This is a custody grab. She's the hero. She forgot them outside." Jane cried softly. "They're being held by someone who doesn't understand them. I'm their mother." The live stream ended. Within an hour, my accounts were under siege. Death threats. Hate messages. Someone found my workplace. The hospital phones rang nonstop. Security disconnected the lines. I sat shaking in the break room as whispers filled the hallway. Week 2, day 3. 2 days later, HR summoned me. I walked the corridors certain I was about to lose everything. Inside the office sat the HR director and Dr. Grayson, chief of medicine. A thick file rested between them. "We've reviewed the children's medical records," Dr. Grayson said. "The A footage," the HR director added, "and Jane Hart's campaign. We know the truth," she continued, "and we won't let an influencer destroy one of our best nurses." I stared. The hospital had prepared a countersuit for defamation. "We're going to bury her," the HR director said calmly. Relief broke me. I cried. The final piece came the next afternoon. A text from an unknown number. "I was at the party. I need to tell you about the door code." I called immediately. Joshua had been showing off, demonstrating the smart log, changing the code remotely while drunk. He never sent it to Dean. It wasn't an accident. Attorney Vance subpoenaed the logs. The data was devastating. Jane was arrested mid-live stream for bail violation. 6 months later, the verdict came down. Joshua, 5 years. Jane, 2 years. Parental rights terminated. The mansion sold. The cars liquidated. $300,000 placed in trust for Dean and Hannah. 40% of Joshua's future income garnished. I felt no triumph, only relief. 2 years later, I stood in the backyard of our house. 3 bedrooms, a swing set, a garden. Dean pitched baseballs. Hannah drew chalk flowers. I was promoted to head nurse. Enough money, enough peace. An errand doctor, Aaron Mitchell, had never left. Snow the cat slept in the sun. Dean was 13. Hannah 9, whole, laughing. On my birthday, Dean handed me a small box. Inside, a silver keychain engraved home. "Thank you for opening the door," he said softly, "and for selling your coffee machine." I hugged them tight. Every sacrifice had been worth it. We were finally safe.